Right now we have over 70 passive houses in the Passaton app. We had the window open and we could hear, we were like, oh, that's really loud. But we closed the window and it was quiet inside. So that's also something that the student mentioned, that it's nice to study at home.
Welcome to the Passive House podcast, brought to you by Passive House Accelerator, a catalyst for zero carbon building. For news, inspiration and connections from all flavours of Passive House, check out passivehouseaccelerator.com. Sign up to receive regular updates about events, get your questions answered and contribute to the community dialogue. There's loads of free information for experienced professionals and people just starting out on their Passive House journey. We hope to see you at one of our weekly Passive House Accelerator live webinars. In the meantime, here's this week's Passive House podcast. Welcome back to the Passive House podcast. I'm Matthew Cutler-Welsh, coming to you from Auckland, New Zealand.
And I'm Zack Semke, coming to you from Seattle, Washington.
Happy belated birthday, Zack.
Oh, thank you. May 17th, and it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
And somebody just emailed me to tell me that was also Banana Day at Trader Joe's. So
happy Banana Day. We just had Pink Shirt Day, which was all about awareness of bullying. And it does relate to the construction industry, unfortunately, because mental health is a huge issue here. And I was very privileged to be presenting recently a short webinar, but the company that I was presenting for had a policy of donating to a charity for, I think it was $10 for every attendee of their webinars. And I suggested a organisation called Mates that we have here. There's Mates Australia, Mates New Zealand. I think there's a few others around the place as well. But Mates is about basically looking after people, on builders looking after other builders and checking in with builders and seeing how they're doing. Because we have some terrible rates of suicide and mental health issues in the construction industry. That was yesterday, and all the kids get right into it and wear all the pink stuff to school, which is kind of neat to see at around 3:00 when the streets are flooded with people in pink. And also, I've just come back from a trip to Queenstown, which is an amazing part of the world. It'll be very familiar to anyone who's seen Lord of the Rings. Will be quite familiar with some of the natural landscapes around that part of the world. And it's a bit of a alpine environment there. So Passive House makes a lot of sense and is very attractive. And there's a lot of Passive House innovators, leaders in New Zealand who are located in and around either Queenstown, Wanaka, Central Otago, that sort of region. So it was great to catch up with a bunch of those people and to answer some questions for some homeowners down there wanting to get ready for winter, because it was indeed quite cold down there relative to up here in Auckland. But kind of nice. I do enjoy going to a place that has very distinct seasons, which Queenstown definitely has, more so than Auckland.
That sounds really beautiful.
Yeah, very, very cool. And great to see a bit more activity. The airport was busy. There's lots of, I think, tourism starting to pick up again. And the other buildings probably starting to plateau off a really big peak. But in talking to a couple of architects and builders who work more in our space of the high performance passive house, they're busy. They're as busy as they want to be. And I've seen that more and more, that some of the architects who are solely focusing on either passive house or near passive house buildings, they can be booked up for the next 2 years. So I think there are separate markets there, but plenty of work out there for people who want that really effective, healthy, warm, dry homes, which is great.
Yeah, that's encouraging.
All right, so let's get into this week's show. We've got a great interview to finally bring you.
Absolutely. So a big thank you to our founding sponsors, 475 High Performance Building Supply, Baxt Inqui Architects, Minutair, Mitsubishi Electric Train HVAC US, Partel, Rockwell North America, Stocorp, and Zola Windows. Thanks too to our champion sponsors, Bewizo, Icon Windows and Doors, Intelligent Membranes, PH Air Seal, Proseco, and Source 2050. And a big thank you to our stakeholder partner, NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority.
As we've talked about, we were very lucky to be at the International Passive House Conference earlier this year in Wiesbaden in Germany. And during that time, we had the pleasure of meeting a couple of people from Sweden. One who was just finishing up her internship at the institute in Darmstadt, and her mum made an impression on me as the CEO of Passive House Sweden. At the very beginning of the conference, there were a selection of videos that people had sent in from all of the PHI affiliates from around the world, and the entry from Sweden was fantastic. I wasn't aware of just how much Passive House was going on in Sweden, and a lot in the schools. So there's a lot of Passive House, which completely makes sense. But I also know is quite hard in some places to convince government or whoever's responsible for school buildings to go to that level during the design and build phase. But it's great to see that they're having that success. Now, I had a couple of goes at interviewing while we were at the conference, and had some technical challenges, and I kind of gutted that I didn't bring you those, because it was an amazing conversation. But I'm glad that you picked up the slack there, Zack.
Oh, well, it was my pleasure. I'm sorry that there were those snags, but that gave me a good excuse to have the conversation with Linnea. Linnea Kreutzer is the daughter, and Simone Kreutzer is the mom and director of Passive House Sweden. So it was a really fun conversation. I think that they're having a great time together on this Passive Voyage that they're doing throughout Europe. And we get into some of the details and the experiences they're having and what they're looking forward to. It's still the voyage is still underway, and we'll include information about how to follow it, I think, after the conversation. I am delighted to have Linnea Kreutzer with me today for the Passive House podcast. Linnea, welcome to the podcast. So there's been a lot of voyage on your part since we saw you last in Wiesbaden. So you and your mother Simone are in the middle of your Passive Voyage. So could you tell listeners a little bit about that? What is that all about?
Yes. So when we met in Wiesbaden, we actually had a lot of confusion about this trip and will it even work? And now we're half time in the trip, and we still don't know if the rest of the trip will be good or not. Let's see. But we started in the beginning of January to plan this trip because I was at Passive House Institute and did an internship, and afterwards I thought, what should I do now? And I wanted to travel through Europe. Only for 1 month or so, alone or with friends. But then my friends were busy. So I asked my mother if she wants to join. And she had the idea to do it like some kind of work trip. Why not learn more about passive houses during our trip through Europe? So we combined traveling with the sustainable living, like in passive houses, travel by train. So with the Interrail card we booked, and to also eat vegetarian food. So that's the background about the Passive Voyage.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are on. I'm looking at your Instagram page, which is full of these really great photos documenting this voyage, and I know that you also have a Twitter feed about it and a series of YouTube videos.
Yes.
But yeah, so you launched this voyage right after the conference in Wiesbaden. Is that right?
So yes, we started the trip the 2nd of April in Sweden, in our own passive house where we live. So that was the first night.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to Stockholm with the train to see a straw bale house. So it's not only passive houses, it can also be like natural buildings or eco-friendly buildings. It's not like only passive houses.
Mm-hmm.
We think also other options are great if it helps the environment. Yes, and then that's where it started, and now we are 12 countries through. We have been traveled through 12 countries, and right now we are in Germany again. And we did the east part of Europe, the first etape, so to say, and now we're doing the west part and also UK. This is the second half of the trip.
Right. And we were just interviewing Ilka Cassidy and I just interviewed Marcus and Günther Long in Austria. And I think that you were about to visit them, was that right?
Yes, we were in Vienna in the middle of April to bike with Günther with the Passaton. And I think we saw right now we have over 70 passive houses in the Passaton app. So you go by bike and collect lighthouses. So when you visit a passive house, you collect a lighthouse. And we have over 70 now. So we have been in Innsbruck, in Salzburg, and Vienna, and collected these lighthouses.
That's great. Yeah, and we'll, I guess, stay tuned, or probably by the time that we air this episode, we will have just aired the interview with Marcus and Günther. So if listeners are curious about that app and the Passathon, you can dive into that conversation. We'll include a link in the show notes. So as you are doing this tour, you're staying overnight in many of these houses, right?
Yes, exactly. That's true. So the idea in the beginning was to only stay in passive houses, but we knew already from the beginning this will not be possible everywhere. We also had night buses in the beginning because we couldn't find passive houses in the eastern part. So yes, from Vienna to Sofia, we had a 16 hours night bus, for example.
Oh, wow.
That was, I think, the worst part of the trip so far.
That's hard to sleep.
Yeah, it is. Yes, but we overnight stay in hotels. We have been in next to the Garda Lake, and slept in a passive house hotel there, and also in Explorer Hotel in Schönau on Königssee. We have been sleeping in like student dorms together with other students. Right. So we had like an apartment, and we had our own room, and it was really nice to meet these students and hear how their feeling is about living in a passive house. And then, of course, we had to sleep. Most of the time, we're sleeping in like with private families who are hosting us, and we're really thankful for that.
Yeah, well, it's great. And I think I saw a post. It looked like the student residence in Heidelberg. Did you stay there?
We stayed in one in Heidelberg too. That's right, but not in the Bahnstadt. The Heidelberg Bahnstadt.
Outside, right? Yeah,
outside. But we saw the whole Bahnstadt too the day after with Ralf Bermich.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so Ilka, who I mentioned, who did the interview with Marcus and Günther with me the other day, also organized a couple of tours when we were in Germany. One of the Bahnstadt, but also outside, and I'm forgetting the name of the project, but it's a student-led development of a student housing outside of the Bonstadt. I'm thinking that maybe it was the same one. It was really cool, really impressive.
It could be the one that we also went to.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Right.
The one we were sleeping in was Collegium Academicum.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one.
Yep.
Yeah. We slept in that one. Really cool project.
Yeah. I didn't get to spend the night there, but I did spend the night in the Cube Hotel in the Bonstadt, which is a Passive House, and it was very, very comfortable. So what is your impression of experiencing all of these different kinds of passive houses and different sort of builds of passive house? Has there been a lot of variation, or are they all the same? What's it been like?
It's a lot of variation. It is. Yeah. And what impresses me the most is that you can really build a passive house how you want it, like in what size, whatever size you want, and wherever you want. Like in whole Europe, it's possible. I thought that like in Greece, it's not, maybe not really like a passive house, but it was comfortable inside. It was already warm in Greece when we were there in April, but inside it was, a nice temperature through the whole building. So, and we just 1 week before we were in Finland, where it was snow and really cold, and we were also in a passive house, and there inside it was warm. So, it's really great to see it, and also to show other people on our social medias that it is possible to build a passive house in all climates. That's wonderful. And I don't get why people don't do it.
Right.
And
so
we're talking.
Go ahead.
We're talking a lot with families that we're visiting and where we are sleeping, and everyone has their own story. That it was not easy to build and convince people around you that no, but we really want to build, and to find people who can build a passive house. So it's also really interesting to see the difference and to hear the different stories from each family, because every family had a story that was like tough to get to the passive house, but it was a dream for them, and now they're really happy. And we also share this on our Instagram, for example, all the interviews with the families, and where you can hear all the different stories behind it. And that's also really nice.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so what are some of the commonalities in terms of what people like about being in a passive house? I mean, are there common themes that you're hearing?
In Greece, we met a really funny family where the most important part was the bills. Because before they had to pay a lot for they had a smaller apartment and they had to pay double, I think. And now they're living in a beautiful house and they're paying half of the price and in a bigger house where the whole family has their own rooms, like everyone has their own rooms. And they mentioned all the time, and Daddy is happy about the bills. And everyone said that, and we're happy about the bills. So that's one thing that we also heard in other families, especially now during the energy crisis.
Right.
But also the consistent temperature in the whole building. Like I mentioned, in Finland or in Estonia, where it's cold, or also at our place in Sweden, it's warm inside and you don't have heating. Another part that we heard in Vienna, they were living in the center next to the Prater in Vienna, where it's really loud and it's crowded a lot of times. But we had the window open and we could hear, we were like, oh, that's really loud. But we closed the window and it was quiet inside. So that's also something that the student mentioned, that it's nice to study at home and not go to the university, to study at home, because it's quiet and you don't hear the neighbors when they're having parties or something like that. So it's, also the no noise inside of the passive house.
Right. I imagine you have some good video of that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a lot of videos from everything. We're doing our daily updates and also writing what we're doing throughout the day.
That's fantastic. So you're on day 37 now, is that right? 37, 38?
Today it's day 38.
Yeah.
In total, it's 72 days.
Okay. All right. So you're just past halfway.
Yes.
Just barely past halfway. This is something where you have maybe the next several days planned, but then you're trying to figure out what comes after that. Is that how the itinerary works?
So we actually had planned until today, before we started our trip, and then we said like, okay, but we will have time in Greece maybe or in Italy to check the other parts. And yesterday, I think we realized that the trip continues tomorrow or in 2 days, and we haven't planned or checked the trains or the buses because we don't have time, because every day in the morning and throughout the day we're meeting people or filming interviews or just want to see the cities or the nature or whatever. And in the evening we meet our new family or stay in a hotel or so on. And when we meet a new family, we want to socialize with them, of course, and
absolutely
want to hear their story, and we tell our story and what's behind us. And then maybe at 10, 11, we start to cut the videos together and write our text to the posts. So it's really a full-time job.
Yeah, it sounds like it's more than a full-time job, right? You're totally maxed out. Yeah.
And we're also dreaming about like the trip and the Passive Voyages and everything.
Yeah, right.
So
that's intense.
Yeah, it is. So today, actually in the morning, we had to sit down and see if we could find a bus or a train to Barcelona. We're going there on Sunday in 4 days.
Right.
And the train tickets were sold out. So now we have to see if we can find a bus.
Oh, wow. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Have you been to Spain yet in this tour?
No, not yet.
Yeah. And there's so much happening in Spain. You could probably spend a whole bunch of the rest of your trip in Spain.
We could have spent the 2 months there, I think.
Yeah.
But we really wanted to see the other places too and the other countries to show that like it's possible even though you're living in Greece or Bulgaria or Poland or UK.
Right. Absolutely. So what other countries after Spain are you hoping to visit before the end of the trip?
So tomorrow we're going to Switzerland to stay there 1 night, and then we're going to France, the south or the east south part.
Mm-hmm.
And we're staying 2 nights in 2 different passive houses. And after that, we're going to Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
And we will actually stay there 3 nights in 3 different passive houses, cool. Which is really funny. It's nice to stay 3 nights at one place, like in the same city, so you can explore it a little bit more. And Barcelona, everyone told us that it's beautiful. So we're really looking forward to it. We have never been there, none of us. So yes, and then we will go to Madrid and say hello to Pep, Plataforma.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Plataforma Educación Passive House. Is that the
I don't know the
title?
the last P.
Yeah, I don't know the last P either. I'll look it up. But yeah, let's keep on going.
And from Madrid, we try to also find how to come to Lisbon from Madrid. And it's also not easy. It's like 10 hours trip. And yes, we're visiting Passive House Portugal as well in Ilhavo. And we're staying there 3 nights. And after that, we will go to Leon and say hello to my former colleague, Susanne Teumer. She has a passive house there.
Nice.
And she will show us around, and we will also see a lot of other passive houses in that area. And then we will go back to France, to Paris, and sleep in 2 other passive houses a little bit outside of Paris.
Right.
And after that, we're going to Brussels and then to London.
Oh my
to the
goodness.
UK. Yes.
That's amazing. That you're like Passive House Voyage warriors here. That's amazing. So, well, it sounds like while there may be some details that you haven't like figured out, like how to get from one place to the next, you know where you're going, and so there's you have a lot planned out. It's awesome.
Yeah, I have the list in front of me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known.
Right. Totally. Yeah. There's so many details to track. So cool. So, tell us a little bit about like your background. I know that Simone she's an engineer. Is that right? And Passive House practitioner.
And also an architect. Yes, she's the CEO of the IG Passivhus Sverige in Sweden, which is also an affiliate to the Passive House Institute. And she's right now working with a lot of schools, a lot of Passive House schools.
Nice.
In Sweden. So in Sweden, it's more like of bigger projects than smaller like villas or houses. And yes, she is alone in her company, but she has a lot of members in the IG Passive House who's helping her with like everything when it comes to building a passive house.
About you, what did you study? What was the internship like?
I finished high school last year in Sweden, and
wow.
I would say I know a lot about passive house for being in my age.
Yeah, I'll
but
say.
I'm not sure if that's what I want to work with the rest of my life. So I thought I could do an internship at the Passive House Institute and check it out a little bit more. Yeah. I only hear it from my mother. So when she's talking about it, everything is so good and so on. I wanted to experience and make my own like experience from it. Yeah. So I moved to Darmstadt in August last year and worked with the IFA, the International Passive House Association, together with Francesca Call and Georgia. And I worked a lot with the social media. And I also met Dylan from the Passive House Accelerator.
Yes, absolutely.
And he was also in Darmstadt.
Right. And the same age. You both just graduated. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and I stayed. I was supposed to stay until the middle of February, but I extended it for a month until the conference in Wiesbaden, the Passive House conference, the international. Yes. Yeah. So in the end, I worked a lot with the conference proceedings and helped with the conference website and so on.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. That was a big event. It was very fun. So well organized. Nice job.
Thank you.
So now that you've seen the everything about Passive House, and are you going to follow in your mother's footsteps, or are you going to strike out in something entirely new? Have you made any determinations and made any decisions?
That's a question I get to hear every day.
I'm sure you do. No pressure. No pressure.
And I think my mother's wish is that I take over the company one day. But I'm still not sure. I will start to study in August in Sweden, energy environment management. So I think it's not like only passive houses. It's much more bigger. And after that, let's see what happens.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Definitely.
I mean, I think it's important, of course, but I'm more into the direction of like marketing and not like I'm not the technical person. I wouldn't say that.
I can relate to that. That's true for me too. Well, this has bin great, and it's so cool to hear about this amazing project. And very well done. I guess is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Yes, I mean, if you want to follow the next days or weeks, of our trip, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter under Passive Voyage. And yes, we try to also be on TikTok, but we just started there, so let's see if we can grow there too. A lot of young people are there, so let's see. I hope we will reach out to a lot of people with this really important thing to show.
And that was the young and very inspiring Linnea Kreutzer, speaking to you from somewhere in Germany at the time.
That's right. Yep. And they were about to head to Spain.
Yeah. And I have just been checking out some of their Instagram posts from Spain. Pretty amazing, given the amount of work, the short time that they have to put those together. Sort of edit them with a bit of music and splice some footage from each day onto their Instagram posts. So definitely follow them, check them out. Fantastic little break in your day and some inspiring stuff to see, not just the buildings, but all the people that they're meeting. And I think that was something that really came through in the discussion, was how much that trip is about meeting the people and hearing the stories behind each of the buildings that they're visiting.
Yeah, I was just and then doing some documentation for the rest of us of these folks who are that make up the Passive House community, kind of, or some of the, like, I don't know, what is it, the you think of like this tapestry. These are very important kind of linking people who they get to visit. So it's good stuff.
And it's so cool to go and visit all these different people, such a variety, but they've all got this common thread of Passive House, and immediately welcoming and eager to share their story of what their particular building represents, or how they got there, or what their sort of contribution and their journey's been themselves. So really cool stuff. My takeaway from meeting Linnea in Germany was just, it kind of gave me a breath of hope, really, for the future. You mentioned that she was the same age.
Yeah, as Dylan. I think, as Dylan Ingwe. Yep, they're compatriots.
And Dylan Ingwe, of course, son of Michael, who's founder of Passive House Accelerator. Both really interesting, inspiring young people, and both have had this amazing experience, hands-on experience of Passive House.
Yeah.
And when you ask them what they plan on doing, and obviously lots of people do ask that question and assume that they're going to become Passive House architects. Neither of them are. They've chosen. It's almost my take from that is that they want to do more. Dylan's doing something around building technology, or Linnea is looking at something, a broader sort of environmental, which I think is really cool. The Passive House is always going to be there, but they're sort of inspired by the potential, and I think wanting to really have the biggest impact that they can, which I think is very promising. And in the discussions that I had, which unfortunately I don't have the recordings of, and one of my final questions to Linnea was, how does she feel about the future? And she said, and I'm paraphrasing quite badly here, but along the lines of, we acknowledging that we have work to do, like it's not going to be easy, but there is hope, and that she feels positive, net positive, acknowledging that there's some challenges, but also encouraged and believes that they have the technology, the will, and can make the changes that they know that they need to make. I think that hopefully the future's in good hands.
Yeah. I believe her.
Yeah,
I believe her.
yeah. A couple other things from their trip, though. Definitely, like I said, check out their Instagram posts, and particularly right now, they may still be in Spain, or they may have moved on from Spain by the time this goes live. But there's a lot happening in Spain.
That's right. Yeah. So I think we mentioned the Plataforma de Edificación Passive House as that's an affiliate to the International Passive Association. So it's a nonprofit that is responsible for spreading the word about Passive House and supporting its development in Spain. And it's taken off like crazy in Spain. I think we were just looking at the Instagram post that Linnea and Simone put together during their visit with them. And it was 300,000 square meters of Passive House so far. So that's about 3 million square feet of Passive House development. And, we've had a glimpse of that at the accelerator with a couple of presentations. But I think that many of us in the English speaking world may be less aware of what's happening in Spain than we should be because of the language barrier a bit. But it's exciting to see that what's going on.
It is. And I'm always excited and interested in what's going on in warmer climates, and that's something that Spain has been looking at really well, and we've seen that in a number of presentations in various conferences around the place. And really cool to see a different style of building, that a sort of more warm climate vernacular that incorporates Passive House into that, and totally breaks the mold of that thinking of large box with tiny windows. Some of these have quite large openings because they've got a nice view, but obviously a lot of the design concern is around avoiding overheating instead of being warm enough. So incorporating things like fixed passive shading into the design of the building, and just how they're sort of going about doing that. And also, in my part of the world, I was anti flat roofs for a long time because we had all sorts of issues relating to moisture getting in, and there were design issues, but also build issues and quality issues. But flat roofs can make a lot of sense in a Mediterranean type environment. So seeing that also work really well in a Passive House is interesting as well. So yeah, some great stuff. And as I mentioned before, obviously having great fun and meeting some amazing people and hearing their stories. Any other takeaways from you from that chat?
Oh, you got to check out the kind of TikTok like dance that is a part of the voyage. So if you're curious about that, check out the Instagram page, and we will include that in show notes. Yeah,
awesome. And I get just one other point that I think is worth mentioning is that value that they're finding from spending a night, not just from meeting the time that you get to spend with people and hear their stories, but the experience of staying in a Passive House. And a lot of people talk about the first time they go into a Passive House, even if it's not completed yet, during the construction phase, and think, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But staying in a place overnight just gives you that whole extra experience. And it was interesting. She talked about the comfort and the quiet as well, and particularly there was the student buildings, and how one of the comments was that it was really nice to go home and study, which is a big contrast, I know, to some of the university halls that or more the flats that people have, and people dreading going back to their flat, spending all of their study time in the library at the university because that's heated. And this kind of flips that on its head, and having a space that's comfortable and healthy is really good for the students, and they want to be there and they're probably a bit more productive as well, I would imagine, in that type of environment.
Yeah. Ilka and I got a chance to see that student residence in Heidelberg that Linnea was referring to, and we did a good, like, I don't know, couple hour tour of it. And yeah, it's not like my dorm was, I'll tell you that. It was really, really nice, and also, but nice in a very kind of informal way, you know, with lots of exposed wood, but like plywood, you know, lots of natural materials, and the students are involved in kind of fitting out the details of how their own space comes together. So that there's some DIY stuff that's going on there too. So really, really cool vision for a student residence. That I can only imagine, you know, that it would be kind of like invigorating and you know, full of healthy air, and it's good stuff.
I really like that idea that doesn't have to be luxury as well. Like, good quality, healthy, doesn't have to be the like super fancy fittings and uber luxury. So we need more of that, and we need more hotels and Airbnbs and places where regular people can go and stay in a passive house and experience it, and then take that feeling with them, and say, when I renovate my home or when I buy my next home, I want that again, and I'm not going to settle for being cold and drafty and uncomfortable.
You're here.
All right. We'll check that out. There's a couple of articles on the Passive House Accelerator page as well. So we can link to those. But definitely there's another couple of weeks of the Passive Voyage. So check it out, follow their journey. And you can go back and have a look at some of the great Instagram videos as well, and posts. There's
a radio spot and maybe a TV spot. There are some other links that Linnea shared that we'll share in show notes too. So there's definitely more to explore.
All right. What else is coming up in Passive House world?
Yeah, well, at Passive House Accelerator this week, we have a construction tech edition of Passive House Accelerator Live. So that's on Wednesday, May 24th for us here in North America. So that's Thursday, very early in the morning for you. In New Zealand, and ridiculously early in Australia. Sorry, guys. So it is called Modern Bones for Next Generation Homes, the Marshall Fire Rebuild. And this is a presentation by Edie Dillman and Jonah Stanford of B Public. And the Marshall Fire is that fire that swept through a suburb of Denver. And now there are a number of passive houses that are rising from the ashes, essentially. And it's part of the reason that the Passive House Networks conference this fall, will be in Denver, is because of the that story of the rebuild and what the role of Passive House is playing. So check that out. And then next week is a fifth Wednesday of the week, or of the month rather. May is one of those months that has 5 Wednesdays. So we have a special episode of Passive House Accelerator Live, where we will be joined by Beverly Craig and Jane Lino of the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. Beverly Craig is also a frequent host of the Passive House Accelerator Live Project Showcase. The movers and shakers behind the amazing progress that's happened in policy and in adoption around Passive House in Massachusetts. So it's called Massachusetts Took Passive House to Scale. You can too. I can't wait for that one as well. Plenty of other stuff happening out in the Passive House worlds that we include links to in our newsletter. So I will include in our Passive House Weekly. So I will include a link to that in show notes too.
The 15th National Passive House Conference coming up in Spain in their autumn. Submissions are open for papers until the 23rd of June. So there you go, Zach.
Okay.
Put your paper.
All right.
Your paper.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait to get back to Spain.
Yeah. And also proposals are still open for FierceCon in Houston until later this week. So May the 26th is the deadline for abstract submissions. Well, thank you for that, Zach. And we wish Linnea and Simone the best for the rest of their journey. We'll keep enjoying their posts from wherever they are and whatever they're doing. And we'll be back again next week on the Passive House podcast.